Welcome on board, Chosen One. The doors just locked behind you, and you didn't even have to touch them. Funny how the universe moves for people who were never supposed to kneel. Look at the silence around you right now. That isn't peace, that is fear. The kind of fear your enemies pretend they don't feel, even though their hands shake the second your name enters a room. They thought you were gone, didn't they? They swore you were finished. They even told people you would never rise again. And yet here you stand, breathing in the aftermath of a storm you survived while they collapsed under the weight of their own lies. Look who couldn't handle your silence. Look who panicked the moment you stopped explaining yourself. Look who started checking your pages, your updates, your life in secret, praying for any sign that you were still broken. When they said you were nothing, they weren't talking about you. That was their reflection leaking through their teeth. When they whispered that you will never make it, they were begging the universe to slow you down before you exposed everything they tried to hide. And now look at them. All that noise and not a single one of them can look you in the eyes. Content like this exists for the ones who are already operating at a different frequency. If this message found you today, it wasn't by accident. Subscribe and turn on notifications so the next message reaches you the moment it drops. Here is the truth they never wanted said out loud. Your enemies are terrified because you didn't fold when you were supposed to. They expected you to break. They needed you to break. They were counting on you staying trapped in the version of yourself they invented. But the universe didn't choose you to bow. It chose you to disrupt. You are that anomaly people study in the dark because they cannot stand the way you keep winning in silence. You walk into a room and their illusions snap like cheap glass. There is a shift around chosen ones that cannot be faked. The world becomes colder around you, heavier, almost like it is waiting for your next move. You ever notice how quiet everything gets once you stop lowering your standards? How people who once screamed for your attention suddenly turn into ghosts? That is the universe clearing the floor, making space for your real rise. Meanwhile, your enemies sit in the corner watching everything crumble in their own lives, wondering why every plan they built against you fell apart overnight. They don't understand that the universe rejects anything created out of envy. They don't understand that a roaring fire doesn't fear the whispers of the wind. When you pour into something that has been pouring into you, you open a channel the universe rewards. Every act of generosity plants a seed in your own season of harvest. If this message has added something to your day, check the link in the description and the pinned comment when you feel ready. And let's continue. Your enemies scream the loudest when they know they are losing. They scratch, claw, and throw everything at you. Not because they are strong, but because they are desperate. They fight in the only way they know how, by trying to break you. But they were never fighting you. They were fighting the force that chose you, and no one wins against the universe. You know what is wild? You have been underestimating your own story. You have forgotten what you crawled out of. Remember the nights you thought you wouldn't make it. Remember the people who watched you fall and didn't offer a hand because they secretly liked seeing you down. And yet you rose. You rose from things that should have erased you. You rose from betrayals so sharp they could have taken out someone stronger than you. But you didn't die there. You rebuilt yourself while everyone who swore you are done was busy drowning in their own emptiness. Type Amen if you feel like this message was sent to you today not by chance, but because you were ready to receive it. Chosen One. You have been through chapters that would have ended 99% of people. You kept going with wounds that others would have cried about for years. You carried pain that wasn't yours, guilt that wasn't yours, responsibilities you never asked for. And somehow, you still showed up. That is why the shift started. That is why the air around you changed. That is why enemies whisper your name like it is a warning. They finally realized what you are. You aren't ordinary. You aren't replaceable. You aren't predictable. You are a threat to every lie they ever built because you are the proof that they were wrong. They threw everything at you, and you still didn't break. You didn't even crack. you transformed. You became sharper, quieter, more dangerous, and now they are scared of the very person they tried to erase. A long time ago, someone like you stood in your shoes. People mocked them, doubted them, pushed them aside, said they would never matter. That person stayed quiet, focused, and patient. And when they finally rose, the world pretended it always knew. History repeats itself. It is your turn now. Type 555 if you feel like a major shift is already in motion in your life, the kind they told you would never come. So here you are in the center of your power, stepping into the version of yourself that no enemy can outrun. If you feel that fire rising, if your chest is tight and your mind is buzzing, that is not anxiety. That is the universe aligning the pieces for your next move. And if you are ready to silence every enemy forever, hit like, subscribe, and comment 77. Every second you stay strengthens this force, pulling you toward the life that was always meant for you. Now, let's get into it step by step. Number 1. The throne doesn't answer to clowns. Every insult they threw at you was a confession of who they wished they could be. You want the truth? Fine. Here it is in its rawest, coldest form. The people who tried to break you were never attacking your weakness. They were attacking your strength. They saw something in you they couldn't touch, couldn't copy, couldn't kill, and it burned them from the inside out. So they did what desperate people do. They barked, they lied, they twisted stories. They dragged your name to places you never even walked. And for what? Attention, validation. A moment where they could pretend they mattered. But you didn't answer, you didn't kneel, you didn't explain. And that silence shattered them more violently than any words ever could. Look at the pattern. Look at their panic. The second you stopped reacting, the second you stopped entertaining their circus, the second you sat back on your throne with that quiet, I don't need to prove a single thing energy, they broke. Every move you didn't make drove them crazier. That is what real power does. It doesn't argue. It doesn't lower itself to the ground. It doesn't stand in the mud begging fools to understand its worth. Your presence alone exposes them. Ever wonder why they obsessed over you so much? Why they kept checking on you even when they pretended to hate you? Why your silence made them louder? Because deep down they knew the throne was never theirs. They were playing pretend, wearing fake crowns, puffing their chest like they were royalty. But the universe doesn't bow to the loudest one in the room. It bows to the one who can sit still and still shake the entire atmosphere. And that is you. Inside their minds they won imaginary battles. Outside in reality, they lost before they even started. That is why they tried to drag you into arguments. Because they needed you on the same level to feel relevant. A throne is too high for them. They cannot reach you unless you bend down, and you finally stopped bending. That is when everything changed. Type 444 if you know deep down that no matter what they threw at you, something greater has always had your back. Chosen one, let me tell you something your enemy will never admit out loud. They studied you. They watched how you moved, how you healed, how you rose again after every hit that should have taken you out. They counted your failures and prayed they would be permanent. They exaggerated your flaws because they couldn't stand your strengths. They threw shade at your shine because they couldn't dim it. You didn't lose anything when you stopped engaging. They did. They lost their power source. Your attention. They lost their confidence because it was built on comparing themselves to you. They lost their storyline because you stopped playing the villain in their fantasy, and now they are stuck with themselves, which just happens to be their worst nightmare. You think they are angry. No, they are terrified. Terrified of your growth, terrified of your comeback, terrified that their lies will not age well next to your success, terrified that the version of you they mocked doesn't exist anymore. terrified that their words will not matter when your actions start screaming the truth. Listen, chosen one. Kings like you don't lift a sword for every mosquito buzzing around them. You don't enter battles that insult your level. You don't waste energy correcting fools who willingly misunderstand you. A wildfire doesn't stop to explain why it burns. The ocean doesn't apologize for swallowing storms. The universe doesn't submit a report before shifting destinies. Power is silent. That is why it scares them. Let me go deeper. Because right now, you are standing at a point in your story where questions start creeping in. Why didn't they treat you right? Why did they pick fights with you? Why did they twist everything you said? Why did they try to make you look small? Because small people panic when the room belongs to someone greater. They couldn't understand how you stood up after every betrayal. They couldn't accept that you didn't crumble when they expected you to. They couldn't handle that you carried a strength they never earned, so they tried to push you down to their level. They needed you to react, to argue, to defend yourself, to explain why you are the way you are. But you didn't, and that silence humiliated them more than any comeback ever could. The ones who keep showing up for content like this are being prepared for something bigger than they can currently see. Subscribe so this channel stays with you as that next chapter opens. They will tell people they moved on. They will swear they don't care. They will pretend you are irrelevant. Yet they are still watching you, like you are the season finale of a show they pretend not to like. They refresh your page. They talk about you in circles. They stalk your glow up in private while swearing they are unbothered. The enemy doesn't ignore what threatens them. They shadow it. And this is where your power becomes untouchable, not because you shouted, not because you proved something, not because you argued like they wanted, but because you didn't play their game. You stayed on the throne. You let the crown speak. You let your silence be the blade. Chosen ones rise by ignoring noise, not matching it. You ever watch a king walk past chaos without a single flinch? That is you now. Your stride rattles their confidence. Your stillness exposes their insecurity. Your presence alone reminds them exactly who they are dealing with. You weren't just chosen. You were built to be the kind of force that fools cannot coexist with. People like them crumble in the presence of actual power. People like you rise in the absence of validation. Let me give you a moment of history. Every powerful figure who rose above the chaos had one thing in common. They stopped explaining themselves. They stopped arguing with people who wanted drama, not truth. They stopped defending their worth to people who never had any. And the moment they chose silence over reaction, the universe cleared a path. The same thing is happening for you, chosen one. You are stepping into a chapter where your enemies will expose themselves without your help. They will trip over their own lies. They will choke on their own jealousy. They will drown in their own bitterness. And you will keep rising, quietly, powerfully, effortlessly, because a throne doesn't move for fools. A king doesn't argue with insects, and power doesn't explain itself to noise. You don't win by fighting them. You win by outgrowing them. And you already did. Now keep your eyes forward. The next part of your rise is waiting. Number 2, the sun never bows to shadows. Your light didn't offend them, it exposed them. Here is the reality. No one ever told you out loud. You were never the problem. Your glow was the same way the sun rises without asking permission. You exist without shrinking, and that alone is enough to unravel everything they pretend to be. They want you quiet. They want you dim. They want you apologizing for a brightness the universe stitched into your bones. But the sun doesn't apologize for burning. It just shines. And everything incapable of handling real heat gets scorched. Imagine this. You walk into a room without saying a word, and suddenly the air tightens, not because you are loud, not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because your presence rearranges the atmosphere. They feel it in their throat. They feel it in their spine. They feel it in that place where envy festers. You are not doing anything. You are just existing, and that drives them insane. Your presence is their discomfort, not your flaw. They call you intimidating because they don't understand strength. They call you lucky because they don't understand sacrifice. They call you arrogant because they don't understand self-respect. What is flowing through you right now is real. And when you honor what pours into you by pouring back, heaven takes note. Every act of generosity you release returns multiplied. Check the link in the description and the pinned comment when you feel moved. And let's keep going. Listen carefully. Fools name what they fear. You have spent so long trying to figure out why certain people reacted so violently to you, why they judged you before knowing you, why they whispered, why they spread rumors, why they twisted stories, why they tried to stain your reputation the moment your light started getting noticed. You want the answer. Here it is, sharp and unfiltered. Your existence exposes the truth they hide behind. Imagine a candle standing next to a floodlight. The candle doesn't hate the floodlight. It simply knows it cannot compete. That is how your enemies feel. They weren't made to stand beside someone like you, so they tried to dim you the only way they knew how, by attacking what they couldn't understand. But here is the twist. They cannot dim what they didn't create. Your glow is the reminder that their masks were never enough. Your confidence authentic. Your discipline hard-earned. Your growth paid for in silence and scars. They didn't see the nights you stayed up rebuilding your mind. They didn't see the mornings where you pushed through exhaustion. They didn't see the times you fought battles no one knew about. But now that you are rising, they suddenly have opinions. They suddenly have judgments. They suddenly have stories about how you changed. You didn't change, you evolved. You stopped shrinking to make them comfortable. And that right there is the crack in their armor. Let's go deeper, because at this point in your rise, questions start echoing in your head. Why do they stare? Why do they gossip? Why do they copy you while pretending they dislike you? Why do they hate your glow when they could build their own? Because your light forces them to confront the darkness they ignored. Because your confidence exposes their insecurity. Because your presence reveals their fraud. Because your growth highlights their stagnation. Imagine this. A mirror is harmless until someone stands in front of it. Then suddenly it becomes a threat. That is you. You became the reflection they avoided all their lives. You showed them their laziness, their lack of discipline, their excuses, their wasted potential. You became the truth they weren't ready to meet. People don't hate your light, they hate their shadows. Type 333, if you know you are not walking this road alone, that a force greater than you has been clearing the path before you arrived. This isn't arrogance, this is clarity. If they truly saw nothing in you, they wouldn't react at all. They would be indifferent. They wouldn't stalk you, envy you, mock you, imitate you, or lie about you, but they do. They always do. Their jealousy is devouring them from the inside. Their insecurities are choking them. Their mind is looping your name like an alarm they cannot shut off. Meanwhile, you are just out here living. Here is the part they will never admit. Your existence makes them feel small. Not because you belittle them, not because you attack them, but because you are a standard they cannot reach. And instead of rising, they rot. Instead of leveling up, they lash out. Instead of improving, they invent reasons why you don't deserve your shine. Imagine this. You are the sun. They are the mold in a basement. The two were never meant to coexist. The moment your light hits, they evaporate. Their lies, their insults, their projections, they melt like cheap plastic under heat. That is why they fall apart around you. You didn't ruin them. You revealed them. And once someone is revealed, they cannot pretend anymore. Their tricks stop working. Their manipulation loses power. Their words sound hollow. even to themselves. They cannot hide behind their illusion because your glow makes the cracks too obvious. They are collapsing not because you defeated them, but because truth does what truth always does. It exposes, it reshapes, it destroys what isn't real. Truth doesn't fight lies. It lets lies crumble under their own weight. You are not meant to apologize for shining. You are not meant to dim yourself to soothe fragile egos. You are not meant to bury your confidence so that people who refuse to grow can feel taller. You are not meant to live small so they can pretend they are big. Chosen one, you were made to stand out. You were made to burn. You were made to rise. Your glow is not an accident. It is evidence. Evidence that you survived things they couldn't handle. Evidence that you built yourself while they waited for handouts. Evidence that you kept going when they expected you to stop. Evidence that you are exactly who the universe intended you to be. If you shrink now, you betray every version of yourself that fought to get here. Let me tell you something with the precision of a blade. They are not your problem. Their jealousy isn't your responsibility. Their insecurity isn't your burden. Their collapse isn't your fault. They will fall, not because you pushed them, not because you hurt them, but because they cannot exist where truth stands. Type 777, if you feel like the miracle you stopped believing in is closer than it has ever been, you are rising into a level where your light becomes protection, your glow becomes clarity, your confidence becomes armor, your discipline becomes destiny. They can scream, they can lie, they can twist, they can accuse. It doesn't matter. The sun doesn't argue with shadows. It just shines until the darkness has no place left to hide. And that is exactly what you are doing. So stand tall, burn bright, walk forward. Let them choke on their bitterness while you rise through the very flames they hoped would destroy you. This chapter belongs to you, not because they chose it, but because you earned it, because you survived it, because you outgrew every version of yourself they thought would break. You shine, they crumble, balance restored, and the universe approves. Number 3. The hiss gives the coward away every time. Snakes don't slip. They reveal themselves the moment real power walks in. When someone like you enters the room, the weak cannot stay hidden. They pretend they are calm. They pretend they are neutral. They pretend they are clapping for you. But the universe has a funny way of dragging truth to the surface. You never had to hunt your enemies. You never had to decode their intentions. Their jealousy did all the work for you. Every fake smile, every shady glance, every I am happy for you that cracked at the edges, that was their hiss. And trust me, once the hiss starts, the mask doesn't stay on for long. Imagine this. You are rising, focused, minding your path, and suddenly someone around you starts acting different. Their energy tightens, their tone shifts. Their compliments taste like sugar laced with venom. Why? Because greatness exposes fraud faster than any confrontation ever could. You don't have to accuse them. You don't have to call them out. You just exist. And their insecurity panics. They crumble, not because you attack them, but because your presence unclips their disguise. You ever notice how they whisper more when you succeed? How they accidentally let their envy slip? How they watch you like they are studying their own defeat? That is not coincidence. That is exposure. Your growth shakes their soul. Your confidence makes their masks crack. Your silence forces their true nature into daylight. And here is the part they never want you to realize. Their obsession with you is their downfall. Their jealousy blinds them. Their envy traps them. Their fixation ruins them long before you ever lift a finger. Keep moving, keep rising, keep shining. You don't need to fight snakes. Just wait. The hiss always gives them away. Number 4. Cut the strings and watch the manipulator starve. Your silence wasn't cold. It was the moment their control died. Here is the truth most people cannot handle. The one who controls your emotions controls you, and your enemies knew that. That is why they poked you, provoked you, cornered you, dragged you into arguments you never asked for. They weren't looking for truth. They were looking for reaction, because reaction meant power. Reaction meant access. Reaction meant they still owned the switch to your peace. Imagine this: someone tries to push your buttons and nothing happens. They insult you and your face doesn't twitch. They try to guilt trip you, and you don't blink. They throw shade and you walk right past it like a king passing peasants. That silence, that calm, that is when they feel the floor open under them. When you stopped reacting, you snapped the last string they were pulling. They wanted you emotional because emotional people are easy to control, easy to predict, easy to manipulate. But you woke up. You realized your peace wasn't theirs to play with. You realized your mind wasn't a playground for fools. And the moment you withdrew your emotional access, they lost their entire advantage. Type 999 if you are done carrying what was never yours, done holding guilt, pain, and narratives that belong to people who chose to stay broken. This is why they call you heartless now, not because you are, but because you stopped being their puppet. A puppet without strings is useless to a manipulator. They cannot make you dance. They cannot make you suffer. They cannot make you chase their approval like you once did. And that scares them more than anything you could have said. Imagine them pressing buttons that no longer exist, pulling strings that aren't attached, whispering poison that no longer lands. That is the moment you became untouchable. You didn't become cold. You became free, and nothing terrifies a manipulator more than someone they can no longer control. Number 5. Dim candles always curse the sun they cannot outshine. They never hated your light. They hated how small it made their darkness look. Chosen one. Let's keep it brutally honest. You never had to prove a single thing to these people. You just walked into the room, breathed, existed, and suddenly their whole identity started glitching like a cheap screen. A dim flame will always hate the sun, not because the sun is loud, but because the sun exists on a level they cannot even dream of reaching. Your glow exposed every insecurity they tried to bury. Your confidence cracked every mask they taped onto their face. Your authenticity burned straight through the illusions they spent years constructing. Imagine this. You rise a little, and they twitch. You smile, and they tense up. You succeed at something simple and their whole chest gets heavy. Why? Because you keep reminding them of everything they will never be brave enough to become. You are the example they didn't want the universe to show them. You are the truth they hoped would stay hidden forever. They don't hate your shine, they hate the reflection. Your presence exposes their laziness. Your discipline exposes their excuses. Your strength exposes their weakness. Your freedom exposes their fear, and deep down they know it. That is why their hate looks suspiciously like obsession. That is why their insults sound like admiration in disguise. They don't wish you would fail. They wish they could rise like you. They wish they could move without begging for approval. They wish they could stand tall without shaking. Let them drown in that bitterness. Let them suffocate on the envy they brewed themselves. You weren't born to dim for anyone. You weren't built to shrink for insecure spectators. You are the sun. You rise. You burn. You shine unapologetically. And if their eyes hurt, that is their problem, not your responsibility. Number 6. Shadows only exist because the light is winning. A shadow isn't a threat. It is proof something brighter is standing behind it. Chosen one. Let's rip the mask off this one. They really believed their weak little tricks could stop you. They thought their gossip, their plotting, their jealous whispers, their desperate attempts to smear you would somehow freeze your rise. That is how small their world is. That is how tiny their imagination is. They actually thought a shadow could stop the sun. Imagine this. You are walking forward, minding your path, and behind you, a shadow stretches long and dramatic. If you didn't know better, you would think it was something big, something scary, something strong. But turn around, and what do you see? Nothing. Just darkness pretending it is a monster. That is your enemies, full of noise, empty of power. They weren't stopping you. They were following you. They tried to block your name, but attention kept falling on you. They tried to break your confidence, but you only got sharper. They tried to build walls, and the universe turned them into stepping stones. They tried to dim you, but their own bitterness became the fuel that made you burn brighter. You ever wonder why their attacks never hit the way they expected? Why you kept rising even when everything around you looked like chaos? Because you weren't built for their level. You weren't built for petty battles. You weren't built for small minds or insecure hearts. A mountain doesn't fall because the wind screams at it. A fire doesn't fade because someone whispers, "Stop burning." A storm doesn't pause because a coward opens an umbrella. And you aren't fragile. You aren't temporary. You are the force that keeps moving even when people swear you are done. Their energy drains them. Their envy weakens them. Their obsession destroys them. But your energy builds. Your silence builds. Your resilience builds worlds they could never enter. They are momentary. You are inevitable. A shadow can try, but it will never outrun the sun. And you, chosen one, you rise every single time. Type 888 if you feel the abundance that has been blocked finally starting to move in your direction, like the dam is breaking. Number 7, the wolf that doesn't bark is the one they should fear. Your silence wasn't empty, it was the warning before the strike. Chosen one, they wanted noise from you. They wanted reaction, panic, anger, explanations. They wanted you barking back so they could pretend they were equals. But wolves don't bark at every echo in the forest. The strongest ones stay silent, calculating, watching. And when you finally went silent, that is when the fear kicked in for them. Loud people only feel powerful when someone is listening. The moment you stopped feeding them, their whole illusion cracked. Imagine this. You walk away with zero reaction, zero explanation, zero energy wasted, and suddenly they are spiraling. They replay conversations in their head. They stalk your silence like it is a crime scene. They ask others about you. They look for signs you are suffering without them. Why? Because silence forces them to face themselves, and they cannot stand what they see. Nothing scares a coward like a wolf who refuses to bark. Your silence exposes their insecurity. Your indifference exposes their irrelevance. Your peace exposes their chaos. They expected a battle. They prepared for war. They rehearsed arguments, insults, lies. They had whole speeches planned out in their heads. And what did you give them? Nothing. Not a word, not a glance, not a drop of your power. That is the deepest humiliation an enemy can experience, realizing they never mattered to you. Imagine them flailing in their noise while you move forward, untouched, unbothered, unstoppable. They told themselves you had fall apart without reacting. Instead, they fell apart when you didn't. That is the thing about wolves. The true threat moves in silence, and by the time the enemy notices, it is already over. Your silence was the strike. Your indifference was the victory, and their collapse, that was the echo. Number 8, the caged resent the wings they will never grow. They don't fear your power. They fear the freedom that birthed it. Chosen one, understand this with brutal clarity. People trapped in their own mental prisons will always hate the one who breaks the bars and walks out untouched. They didn't resent you because of what you did. They resented you because you refused to be controlled. You didn't bow to guilt. You didn't kneel to manipulation. You didn't shrink yourself to make anyone comfortable, and to minds that survive on dominance and emotional chains, that is unforgivable. Imagine this. A bird in a cage watches another bird outside the bars, soaring, maneuvering, choosing its direction without permission. The caged bird doesn't clap. It doesn't smile. It doesn't feel inspired. It feels rage, envy, bitterness, because your freedom is the reminder of the prison they built for themselves. They never wanted you powerless. They wanted you predictable. You broke the script they wrote for you. You stopped reacting the way they expected. You stopped giving them access to your emotions. You stopped letting them own the narrative of your life. And that right there is why they cannot stand you. Weak people need control like oxygen. They thrive on guilt-tripping, cornering, dominating, and twisting your emotions. When you walked away from all that, they didn't just lose you. They lost their power source. Real power doesn't need control. Real power doesn't need approval. Real power doesn't ask permission to exist. And that is you now. You move without explaining. You grow without apologizing. You rise without seeking validation. They hate that. Not because you are wrong, but because they will never know what that level of freedom feels like. They will stay caged. You will keep flying. And every time your wings lift, their bitterness cracks louder. Type 111 if you are ready to claim what was always meant for you, and you feel in your bones that the timing is finally right. Number 9. A freed lion doesn't roar for approval. It claims the entire wild. They never feared your cage. They feared the day you realized the door was never locked. Chosen one, let's drag this truth into the light. They spent so long trying to tame you, not your body, but your mind. They fed you fear disguised as advice, doubt disguised as concern, and limits disguised as realism. They wanted you small, obedient, predictable. They wanted you pacing inside a cage you could have stepped out of at any moment, because a controlled lion is impressive. But a free lion, that is a threat. Imagine this. A lion is trapped behind bars, walking in circles, believing the walls are real. People point, laugh, judge, underestimate. But the lion never stops being a lion. The power is still there. The instincts are still there. The roar is still there, just suppressed. Then one day, it looks closer. It sees that the lock isn't real. The door isn't bolted. The cage was a trick, and the moment that lion steps out, the entire world shifts. That is you. You weren't weak. You were misled. They convinced you that you needed their validation. They convinced you your worth came from their approval. They convinced you that stepping out alone meant you had failed. But the truth, they had zero power over you. None. Every chain you carried was made of words, not iron. And the moment you stopped waiting for permission, you became dangerous. This is why they are terrified now. Not because you changed, but because you stopped believing their stories. You stopped being the tame version they felt comfortable around. You stopped bowing to their insecurities. You stopped making yourself small, just to fit the narrative they built. A freed lion doesn't go back to the cage that insulted its strength. Your mind is open. Your spirit is awake. Your power is unshackled. And now you are not just strong, you are uncontrollable. They don't know what to do with you anymore. How do you tame someone who finally understands their worth? How do you control someone who no longer needs approval? How do you intimidate someone who walked out of the cage smiling? The answer is simple. You don't. They are panicking because you broke the illusion they depended on. You stopped kneeling. You stopped doubting. You stopped being predictable. You stepped out of the mental cage they swore you had never escape. And once a chosen one is free, there is no force on earth that can push them back inside. You are limitless now, untouchable, uncaged, ascended. A caged lion is still a lion. but a freed one. A freed one becomes king. Number 10. The shattered never hate the piece. They hate what it reflects. They didn't break the mirror, they broke themselves, then blamed you for the cracks. Chosen one. Let's call this what it is. They don't hate you because of anything you did. They hate you because standing next to you forces them to face the truth they have been running from their entire lives. You are their reflection, not the one they want, but the one that exposes everything they failed to become. And nothing bruises a fragile ego like being confronted with its own emptiness. Imagine this. Someone wakes up every day telling themselves they are strong, disciplined, focused, special, and then you walk in, your presence alone, without a word spoken, destroys the story they built about themselves. Their illusions shatter, their self-image cracks, their confidence collapses. Suddenly, the mirror they depended on turns into evidence, and they cannot handle it. A broken mirror doesn't show the truth, it attacks it. So, they throw dirt. They twist stories. They gossip in circles. They exaggerate your flaws and invent new ones when they run out. But all they really reveal is their own misery, their envy, their insecurity, their desperation to escape the reflection you trigger in them. You ever ask yourself why they lie about you? Why they obsess over you? Why they are always watching, always comparing, always criticizing? Because your success proves something terrifying to them. They could have risen too, but they didn't. They could have changed, but they wouldn't. They could have become more, but they settled. Your rise exposes their laziness. Your discipline exposes their excuses. Your glow exposes their darkness, and instead of growing, they blame you, the reflection. That is what broken mirrors do. They don't fix themselves. They attack the image they cannot stand. They aren't angry at you. They are angry at the truth you make impossible to ignore. So let them talk. Let them twist. Let them choke on their envy. Every word they spit only proves how far beneath you they stand. You don't argue with broken people trying to project their cracks onto you. You don't explain your strength to those who fear their own weakness. And the best revenge, not rage, not pettiness, not retaliation. The deadliest revenge is the one that burns without a sound. Your success, your glow up, your evolution, your silence. No reaction, just rise. No defense, just dominance. No explanation, just excellence. Let them stare at the reflection that ruins them. Let them feel every crack. You keep ascending, chosen one. Mirrors break, kings don't. Type 222 if you have felt something shifting inside you lately, and you are starting to trust that feeling instead of fighting it. Number 11. Pressure doesn't break you. It forges you into something they cannot touch. They didn't create your strength. They triggered it. Chosen one. They truly believed the pressure would crush you. They thought betrayal would silence you, failure would humiliate you, and pain would paralyze you. They expected every storm to drown you, and every setback to erase you. They didn't know pressure creates diamonds, and fire makes steel. They didn't understand that every hit they delivered was shaping you into something they could never destroy. Imagine this. Someone keeps piling weight onto a structure they assume is weak. Yet with every pound, the structure grows stronger. That was you. Every lie sharpened you. Every trap refined you. Every heartbreak hardened you. They weren't breaking you, they were forging you, activating the very strength they hoped would never awaken. You weren't buried, you were planted. They tried to cover you with humiliation, with rumors, with doubt. They thought you would stay down. Instead, you grew roots. You absorbed every lesson. And when you rose again, you didn't just stand, you towered. You ever wonder why the fire never consumed you? Why every disaster made you colder, clearer, wiser? because you are not made of the same weak material they are. You are steel, you are diamond, you are built from pressure, heat, chaos, and survival. Fire doesn't scare someone who was born in it. Storms don't shake someone who learned to roar back. Your strength wasn't learned, it was earned. And now look at you, walking through flames they designed for your downfall, without even blinking, stepping over obstacles they swore you had never pass, rising above people who prayed you would stay broken. Your victory didn't come because they stopped attacking. Your victory came because their attacks don't matter anymore. You are forged. You are unbreakable, the only one. Type yes if you are ready to stop proving yourself and start moving like the person you have already become, because that version of you doesn't wait for permission. Number 12. The sun doesn't flinch when candles envy its flame. They can copy the glow, but they will never survive the heat. Chosen one, let's drag the truth into the open. A candle can be blown out with a single breath. Weak flame, weak foundation, weak existence. But you are the sun. They can study you, stalk you, imitate you, and obsess over you. But no amount of copying will ever turn a candle into a star. That is why they fear you, not because you are unstoppable, but because their own limits scream whenever your name enters the room. Imagine this. Someone watches every move you make, rewinds your choices in their head, tries to imitate your style, your confidence, your path. Yet it never hits the same. They try to walk like you, talk like you, glow like you, but all they create is a cheap reflection, a knockoff, a flicker pretending to be the sun. They hate you because your existence exposes their weakness. Your strength is natural, theirs is borrowed. They don't fear your power, they fear the gap between you and them. You ever wonder why they keep watching you? Why they keep mimicking your ideas? Why they stay obsessed even while pretending they don't care? Because your presence speaks louder than their entire personality. While they chase validation, you attract it. While they beg for attention, you receive it effortlessly. Their hatred, it always backfires. Every lie becomes their downfall. Every attempt to block you clears your path. Every scheme collapses under its own bitterness, because the universe doesn't reward envy, it restores balance. You were built to rise, built to lead, built to dominate, and nothing they do, no jealousy, no imitation, no whispering campaign, will ever change that. Candles fade, that is what they do. But the sun burns forever, and that is you. Type 1212 if you accept this fully, without flinching. You are the sun, you were built to burn, and nothing they planned against you will survive the version of you that is stepping forward right now. Number 13, the final blow. You don't need to destroy them. Your rise is the execution. Your success is the ending they spent years trying to rewrite. Chosen one, every story has a final strike. The moment the villain turned unstoppable hero stops looking back and walks into their destiny without flinching. This is that moment for you. You have studied the battlefield. You have survived the betrayal, the envy, the gossip, the schemes. You have watched snakes expose themselves, shadows try to intimidate the light, and weak minds choke on their own lies. And through all of it, you didn't break. You evolved. Imagine this. You stand at the top of the mountain they swore you would never climb. Behind you, the ruins of every insult that failed, every attack that missed, every trap that collapsed. Below you, the echoes of their whispers fading into nothing. Ahead of you, the world you are meant to conquer. And what are they doing? Stuck exactly where you left them. Still complaining, still comparing, still calculating, still hoping you will fall so they can feel taller for 5 minutes. But here is the truth. They will never admit. They lost the moment you stopped caring. They wanted you emotional. You became untouchable. Your rise is the punishment they cannot escape. They thought you had crumble under pressure, but pressure built you. They thought hate would break you, but hate sharpened you. They thought isolation would weaken you, but isolation turned you into a weapon. They tried to bury you, but the universe watered the soil. They don't fear your comeback. They fear the version of you that doesn't even look back long enough to acknowledge them. And now here you are, stronger, cleaner, colder, smarter, and more focused than ever. Your enemies are choking on their own confusion. They don't understand how you kept rising. They don't understand how every attempt to break you only made you more dangerous. They don't understand how the person they underestimated turned into the force that now overshadows everything they hoped to be. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is the one thing they swore you would never recover from, that you are already rising past right now? This space is yours. Your words are safe here. And if you know someone who is in the middle of a storm right now, someone who has been knocked down and is fighting to believe it is not over, send this to them. They need to hear it today more than you know. Imagine this: they watch you winning silently. They watch your name grow louder while their relevance shrinks. They watch you glow while their bitterness eats them alive. They watch doors open for you, the same doors they swore would stay shut. You became the plot twist they never saw coming. Your indifference is the sentence. Your success is the execution. Chosen one. This is the part of your story where you stop proving and start ruling. You don't owe them a roar, a speech, a warning, or a goodbye. Your existence is the message. Your rise is the revenge. Your glow is the justice. You don't need to destroy them. They were already collapsing under the weight of their own insecurities long before you stepped into your light. Let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them drown in their envy. You are done explaining. You are done shrinking. You are done playing small for people who couldn't handle your true form. You are walking into a future they cannot follow, a level they cannot reach, a world they cannot survive, not because you are cruel, but because they chose the cage while you chose freedom. You have made it this far because something in you recognized the truth in every word. Content built for chosen ones who are ready to own their next chapter, lives on this channel. Subscribe. Don't let the next message miss you. Your victory is not loud, it is legendary. And now the path clears, the universe aligns, the noise fades, your enemies fall off the storyline like forgotten characters in a script that evolved without them. You rise not as the wounded one, not as the underestimated one, but as the final version of yourself they never wanted you to unlock. This is the closing chapter for them, but the opening scene for you. Walk forward, chosen one. Your throne isn't waiting. Type Amen to seal every word spoken here into your life today. Type it like a declaration. You are unbreakable. You are rising, and everything they tried to use against you has already become the foundation you are standing on.